Hello and welcome to the Arise interview, where we take time to reflect on the big stories from the news and on the fortunes and affairs of the world in an hour of conversation with commentators, analysts and thought leaders. I'm Charles Anyegolu. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, the case of Paul Rusesabagina, a critic of the Rwandan president who is being held in the country, and the man who was portrayed as a hero in the Hollywood movie Hotel Rwanda. He saved hundreds from genocide in Rwanda and inspired an international hit film. But now the man who touched the lives of so many people and was honored with the US Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005 is in jail in Rwanda on terror and murder charges, accused of supporting an armed rebel group based in DR Congo that attacked Rwanda some years ago. So how has it come to this? We'll speak to one of his daughters, who herself is a survivor of that terrible genocide in Rwanda in 1994. Coming up. Now, if you've been watching Arise News over the past 4 months or so, you'll know that we've been following the arrest, detention and trial of Paul Rusesa-bagina, who's been charged with terrorism, murder and other crimes. Mr. Rusesa-bagina is a fierce critic of Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda. You may remember that Paul Rusesabagina was portrayed as a hero in the Hollywood movie Hotel Rwanda, which tells the story of his efforts to save more than 1,000 Tutsis during the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. He'd been living abroad for 20 years, and his family alleged that he was kidnapped in Dubai and taken to Rwanda, where he's now being held on those charges. But the Rwandan government denies that he was kidnapped and say he was arrested when he landed at Kigali airport. Well, in a moment, we'll speak to one of his daughters, Anaise Kanimba, who is based in Washington, D.C. But first, here's a reminder of the film that portrayed Mr. Rusesabagina as a hero of the genocide. Take a look at the trailer of the movie Hotel Rwanda.
My name is Paul Rusesabagina. I am the house manager of the most luxurious hotel in the capital of Rwanda. A place that my family and I happily called our home until the day everything changed.
Daddy, there are soldiers on the streets.
They're killing everyone. It's a massacre.
The United Nations are here now.
We're here as peacekeepers, not as peacemakers.
We've got trouble at the gate.
This is a 4-star hotel, not a refugee camp. I have no means to protect these people.
When a country descended into madness.
They're killing Tutsi children to wipe out the next generation.
No!
And the world turned its back.
How can they not intervene? Hundreds of thousands are dying.
If people see this, they'll say, oh my God, that's horrible. And then go on eating their dinners.
One man had to make a choice.
All the whites are leaving, even the UN soldiers.
All the superpowers, everything you believe in, Paul. They're not gonna stop the slaughter.
We have been abandoned. There will be no rescue. We can only save ourselves.
United Artists presents the true story of a man who fought impossible odds.
I cannot leave these people to die.
To save everyone he could.
They say you led the massacres. You will tell them the truth. I will tell them nothing unless you help me.
And created a place
Go inside the hotel.
where hope survived.
You are a good man, Paul.
We need to help one another. That is the only thing that is keeping us alive.
Hotel Rwanda.
And that's the official trailer of the movie Hotel Rwanda, which portrayed Paul Rusesabagina as a hero of the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. That movie, of course, was nominated for an Oscar, and Mr. Rusesabagina is now under arrest and in jail in Rwanda. One of his daughters is Anaise Kanimba. She's been fighting for the release of her father, and she joins me now from Washington. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We appreciate your taking the time to talk to us. Just briefly remind us of how your father, Paul Rusesabagina, came to be arrested and detained in Kigali. Is there still a lot of mystery around that arrest?
Hi, Charles. Thank you very much for having me on your show and welcoming me to your audience. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here. That's a very good question. That's really where everything begins with what's happened to my father, is how he arrived in Kigali and how he's currently illegally detained. There's actually a lot of questions to this, and it's normally longer a debate. We have known, and we're really sure that he was kidnapped by the Rwandan authorities from Dubai and was brought to Kigali. He was brought there illegally, and then upon his arrival, they arrested him. And then they put him in a place incommunicado for 3 days, in which we had no, of course, contact with him. And we have learned since again that he was undergoing some form of torture. And then on August 31st, he was paraded to the international community. When we first learned this information on that day, the Rwandan authorities said that he had arrived there under international cooperation. Couple days later, then they say that actually the President Kagame, he himself told the Rwandan in the country that he had lured my father to the country, and he essentially made a joke about it. And then there was a third version that came from another Rwandan authorities from the RIB, which said that he had come on his own will and was arrested upon his arrival, which is what you mentioned when you asked me that question. So, we've had 3 different versions from the Rwandan authorities, all pointing out to the fact that, my father, again, would never have gone there on his own will. And so, we have been trying and fighting hard to get him released because he's been kidnapped and now he is illegally detained, and we fear for his life every single day.
Well, thank you for setting that out. And basically, the point is that if he had known he would be arrested, he would never have gone back. But the Rwandan authorities are suggesting that he was always aware of the fact that there was an international arrest warrant pending against him. But can you talk us through exactly what the charges are against your father?
So thank you very much again. So my father is a humanitarian. My father has always done work on for the voiceless. He's been, and this has made his humanitarian work has made him a threat to the Rwandan authorities. So they've created allegations against him for the last 10 years and more. And this all began because of the movie Hotel Rwanda, which you portrayed there at the beginning. And so he being a voice for the voiceless, the Rwandans and others around the country, it made Kagame very, very fearful. And so, and this is what he's done to other critics of the regime today. And so Kagame will call them terrorists, he will criticize them, he will try to put them to jail, he will kidnap them, and he will also invent allegations against them, which is today what my father has been cried that they're accusing him of having led some terrorist group, which is of course untrue. And so, it's part of the reason this, when they talk about that, they say they have international warrants about him. And again, this is another addition to the lies that have been spread by the Rwandan authorities about my father. There's no international warrant against my father. And the UAE had actually confirmed this when they responded to a UN letter that questioned my father's kidnapping and asking them, were they part of this international cooperation? And the UAE, in this public letter, actually told and confirmed to us that there was no international warrant. So this is another lie of the Rwandan authorities. And again, reminding me the way he arrived there, the lies that have been portrayed and smeared against my father for the last 15 years and more have accumulated to this instance, to where we are today, and where we see him illegally detained in Kigali, facing a trial in which we all are sure that it's a sham trial, because the judges and the court, everybody has already determined what's going to happen because of President Kagame. And so there's no real prospect of fairness. There's no real prospect of defense. He was kidnapped there. They have a mission for him, is they want to trial them. They want to trial him and put him to jail for life. And we are trying to do everything that we can to stop that, because it's unfair. My father is, again, a humanitarian. He's not a terrorist. And so we're trying to remind the world of that.
Well, absolutely. That's the point that you and your family have made emphatically. But of course, the Rwandan government say he is the leader of the opposition MRCD group. And there are allegations that that group is connected to an armed group. Is that a separate entity from the MRCD, or are they connected with this armed rebel group that's based in DR Congo that attacked Rwanda 3 years ago? And we've just got about a minute, so if you don't finish, I'll have to interrupt you and we'll come back and finish.
Sure, of course. So this question, the MRCD is a political party. It's an opposition political party that my father and others, Hutus and Tutsis in the opposition, created. It's a coalition of political parties. So it operates with different parties. My father being the PDR Ihomure, and there's others like RRM, and there's another party called the FLN in that coalition. And so, what happens, for instance, with the social democratic, your audience is familiar a little bit with the European politics, under the big umbrella of social democrats, what the Greens are doing is completely different what the social democrat other group are doing. They operate independently. And so the Rwandan authorities are trying to put them all together and essentially say that my father is the creator, the mastermind, and the leader of this armed
We'll
group.
come back and talk a bit more about that, but we've got to take a break. Stay with us. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat about the arrest and detention of Paul Rusesabagina, hero of the Hollywood movie Hotel Rwanda, about the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniegolu, and today our focus is on Paul Rusesabagina, who was portrayed in the film Hotel Rwanda as a hero who saved the lives of more than 1,000 people from the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. A truly amazing story of the Hotel Mille Collines in Kigali. Well, Mr. Rusesabagina is back in Kigali, but this time in chains. He's been in detention there for more than 4 months, locked up in jail. He was arrested in mysterious circumstances by the Rwandan government on terrorism and murder charges. He's been living abroad for upwards of 20 years, is a Belgian citizen and a US resident, and is a well-known critic of the Rwandan President Paul Kagame. But Mr. Kagame denies kidnapping the Hotel Rwanda hero and dismisses allegations of human rights abuses in Rwanda.
It's either kidnap or hoodwinked or tricked. Well, first of all, let me eliminate the one of kidnapped. That was not the case. And he can, Rusesabagina will attest to that himself. There was no kidnap, there was no any wrongdoing in the process of his getting here. He got here on the basis of what he believed and wanted to do, and he found it's like dialing. You are calling a number, you want to get in touch with somebody, and you find you have called the wrong number. That's how it happened. So there was no kidnap. It was actually flawless. Half of my life, I've been living in the trenches, not sure of living to the next day. I didn't fight to be the president of my country. Never. It came by accident, I think. So I was fighting for my own rights, which anyone in any human rights organization could not give me, and even now cannot give me or cannot give Rwandans. So it's a cynical and absurd that anyone would just be there talking about violations, me as the leader of my own people to be accused of violating their rights is just an absurd insult. But my answer is simple, is to do my best to serve my people the best way they can be served. That is the answer.
And that's Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda there. And of course, the man he was referring to at the outset is Paul Rusesabagina. And one of his daughters, Anaise Kanimba, who's been fighting for the release of her father, is still with me from Washington. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. I wonder if you heard that clip from Paul Kagame there and what your reaction is to what he said, alleging that there was no kidnap and that your father turned up in Kigali on the belief of something, and that's when they picked him up.
Yes, thank you. Hi, thank you again. It's a pleasure to stay here with you and to speak to your audience and to be with you. Kagame, what President Kagame says there is he essentially tells the country and the world that he kidnapped my father, and he said by luring, it's not by, when luring somebody to put them to trial, that's something illegal. And today, human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and others have also called out on the fact that the arrest was illegal and the arrival there was not, again, legal. And most importantly, the American Bar Association with the Clooney Foundation also put a pretrial report of what has happened today, and they all question the legality of his arrival there. So if the entire international community is, questioning this statement that he's arrived there legally, then one might wonder why Rwanda, does not disregard the international community and the rule of law. There's a reason why these laws are there, and there's a reason why we have to follow them to be able to live together accordingly. And this disregard to crime, to the rule of law, is what my father always talked about, and when he criticized Kagame. In the second clip, I hear that Kagame talks about human rights and that is what happened in Rwanda. But I just wanted to call you to remind you that Kagame, there's a lot of atrocity committed by his authorities. What happened in the Congo, and that's been widely reported by the mapping report. So all these kind of put together just shows you this general disregard of the rule of law of the international community. And and this is why now we need your support, and really the support of other Africans to stop this and to say, hey, we cannot allow this kind of illegal kidnapping and allow our leaders to just create false stories and false narrative to go to their own gains, because this happened to my father and it could really happen to you, to your father, to your mother, to anybody who's daring to say this is not okay, who's daring to criticize these governments. So we really need to stand up to it. And Kagame joked about my father's arrival in his press conference, again showing that he doesn't really care.